Mic was on my head. All right, we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Um, you know, we still got what, 2, 3 weeks? One. We have about 2 weeks until the season starts. So, I thought, what other better way to get it hyped up with some crazy predictions? Um, I don't know. Yeah, let's just get into predictions. Mostly I'm gonna be talking about who I think is gonna win the divisions, who I think is probably gonna struggle a bit, all that good stuff. So, um, should I talk about like Pokemon picks, I guess, and we'll get into it. We'll get into it. But yeah, first up, you know, I'm gonna rank the divisions in terms of competitive. Well, it's tough because I think every division is super competitive, so it's gonna be tough. um, yeah, you know what? Let's just let's go with the original idea. We're just gonna go down the list and see who I think's gonna have a good season, who I think is gonna have a bad season. So, I have another idea too. Let me pull it up. kind of making this on the spot. Um, I have work in like 4 hours, 5 hours. Yeah, like 4 hours. I go in at 7. It's fucking 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. But the dog slept all day yesterday, so really not tired. So I'm gonna have to force myself to sleep after this. But yeah. Let's get into it before we die. Yeah, before we die, let's get into this. Let's see here. Pokemon Showdown. Start time. Do that. Yep. Let's see, continue. Alright. Standings. Let's do participants. There we go. Explaining. How am I doing this? How did I do this last time? You know? Changes. Standing. So yeah, I guess it's looking weird. I delete this. Cancel. Can I delete? I don't know what's going on here, but plug it. Adding to, okay, let's just do 2. This, okay. Endings? Alright, so yeah, let's do this, okay. Alright, so me, I think I'm gonna have another good season. So, just so everyone kind of knows, I kind of figure everyone does, but I'll go over it again. My division, the Pro Division, does not play the Sapphire Division, and Diamond does not play Ruby. Same thing as last season, but thought I'd go over it real quick. So for I don't play MNES, which is kind of tragic. I mean, we theoretically could go back to finals 3 years in a row, but be a little crazy. Chase, he definitely brought it to me last time, but unfortunately I won't see him this season unless he makes it to finals and I make it to finals. Tavs, again, like Chase, a little unlucky. Yeah, I'd be happy to play him, but scheduling. And Astador, we'll get into him a little bit later, but I'm big on this guy, so yeah, I guess let me get into it. Kind of been stalling here for the past 5 minutes, but brain is kind of fried. Just queued like 3 ranked Smite games in a row, won them all, but it'll do it to your brain. So yeah, me came off near perfect season, only lost to Chris. Had a near perfect playoff run. If I got that roll in a spot or game 3, could have gotten the perfect run, but it's either near or there. Got my dub. Dub, but my division, we have 2 champions. The current reigning champion, ya boy, and the season 1 champ, JC. So just based off that alone, in my opinion, that's already probably the strongest division. We have 2 people that have actually won it. JC, first half of season 3, did very poor. All the way up until his quarterfinals game against Mnez. I mean, he was near unstoppable season 1, season 2 performance. So if he didn't play Mnez in playoffs, I mean, whoever won that game between Mnez and JC was expecting in finals, because again, Mnez in playoffs and JC was just on a roll. So yeah, JC and me, these 2 alone, gonna be a crazy ass division. Noah, he came off a very poor end season, but his beginning of the season was very strong. He said he had a lot of like IRL stuff going on, and he got really busy. It happens. I'm expecting Noah to have a crazy season. I think he's gonna do really good. He's in a pretty tough division, but I think he franchised Annihilate. Whether he makes a Terra Captain or not, I don't know. But I think just starting around that core of Annihilate will be very strong. Actually, a lot of people in this division we already know their picks for, so I guess I can talk about it. JC has franchised Garganical. So in this division, we know I have King Gambit, JC has Garg, and Noah has Annihilate, which, if we're talking about just the best Pokemon in the thing right now, it's probably Annihilate. He can beat both of them, but that's very one-dimensional looking at it. That's 1 out of the 9 Mons we'll have on our team, but Noah, I'm expecting big things from this season. I guess we're doing 14 games, so I kind of predict everyone's record at the end. Actually, I'll go down the list. Me? So traditionally, I've struggled against JC. I've only beat him once, and he's beat me 3 times. Granted, the 2 times he did beat me was back in Season 1, so personally, I don't account for that, but in Season 2, we went 1-1. I'll do that again. I think I'll beat JC once, but I think I'll definitely lose him once, assuming he doesn't just have a piss poor season again, or, but I could see myself losing again to Noah. He definitely stressed me out in our game that we played, but everyone else, pretty, it's kind of cocky to do 13-1 again like I did last season, or like just say I'm going undefeated, because I really do think Tanner's division, I think a lot of them are going to have good seasons. I don't want to sell myself short by any means. If you take away my games that I probably should have lost last season against Mnez and Chase, it's going to be 11-3. So I'll say 11-3. I'll say I'll have like an 11-3 season. I think I'll probably lose to Jay once out of our 2 divisional games, and then 2 games just sprinkled in here or there. Obviously, I'm just kind of spitballing records I have in mind, so if I say like a lot of teams are going to go 11-3 when that's not mathematically possible, or like have a good record when it's, not mathematically possible, I don't care. I'm making this at 2 in the morning. We're just going to have to deal with it. This is kind of just how I have a gut feeling how everyone's going to do. JC, I think if he has a normal JC season, like a season 1, season 2, and a season 3 season, I think me and him will be like me and Chris last season, where we're like 1-2. So to give JC that respect, I will also say he'll have an 11-3 season. Again, he went 9-5 to end off last season, which is still an amazing record, and we called that a bad season for JC. So if he can just clean up a couple games here, very easily seen him being 11-3. Noah kind of went over a little bit earlier. I'm expecting a big season out of him, assuming he doesn't have any IRL stuff going on mid-season. Like he was moving towards the end of last season, so he got pretty busy. Has a season of experience with Annihilate. I don't think he'll tear it again, but there's always a chance he will, which if he does, he already has experience of Annihilate under his belt. Tear or not, he's going to just have that raw experience going in. I'm expecting like a 9-5 season out of him. I think Noah will have a good season. I hate when my keyboard does that. I think Noah will have a good season. I could see him going like 7-7, but by no means do I think he'll go 6-8 again. I think he'll be at neutral or better. So yeah, Preston. When we made that mid-season review, me, him, and Chris, I literally said I could see me playing him in finals because he was doing better than me, and he traded away his whole team, and he just started doing absolute shit. I think if Preston just drafts a solid team again, I mean, his team was very good the last time. Really, the only thing I had an issue with was having double N Blissey, but other than that, his team was very good. So I think if Preston just drafts another solid team, I think it'll be good. If Preston season 1 and 2 drafted some more jank, I would say. Season 3, he went very he had a good team and then drafted it for the jank. So if we see like a first half season 1 Preston, I'm expecting big things again. But again, Preston just likes his jank, and traditionally just has not worked. I believe he went 5-9. So he's in a pretty tough division with me, JC, and Noah. I would say I could see Preston going 6-8. Again, this is not me dogging on Preston. It's just he likes jank, and he's got to break away from it at some point. Maybe this is the season, but I think Preston really needs to, I think he really needs to focus in, get on it. Because again, I think he's a good player. I think, sometimes he makes some weird plays, but in general, I think he's solid enough. Whether he makes playoffs, I don't know. But yeah. B, coming off a pretty just fantastic season all around. I mean, made it to semifinals, and he lost to Mnez, which traditionally has always kind of been his thorn in the side. But, coming off semifinals, we have 2 championship winners in me and JC's division, and then we have 2 semifinalists in this division. Like, this is crazy. But yeah. B, coming off a very good season. He had a lot just of mons he was very comfortable with. Unfortunately, just couldn't overpower the Chin Pao Spother Pult. Yeah, I'm expecting good things from B. He has the 2nd pick, so he can basically draft anything but King Gambit. And I'm pretty big on King Gambit. I think it's a very good mon, but by no means it's the most broken. We have things like Tapu Lele, Darkrai, Urshifu Dark that just all got unbanned. I would expect B to get one of those 3. The Darkrai, Lele, Urshifu. They're all really, really strong mons that maybe get unbanned again, especially since they can Altera. Probably not the smartest decision on our end, but why not? Season 3, we had all the new mons. We could be a little bit crazy. This season, we have no new mons. So, if we're not going to be crazy with anything, might as well make it with some of the new mons we introduced via unbans. By the time Season 4 rolls around, we might have the first DLC drop, which, introduced a couple new mons, but we don't know for sure. That'll probably be more Season 5, Season 6, but There's always a chance. But B pretty much drafts anything but Gambit. Again, I already said which of the three I'm expecting on the draft. Um, I can see B doing very good. I think 11-3 good. I think we can see I think we can see a 9-5 season out of B. I think B's gonna have a good season. I almost said 10-4, but B just, maybe it was just coming out of season 2, his first season. It was in the beginning of the season, but Salt Vest Calmine Latias, just still had some hiccups, but towards the end of the last season, just played very well. Made it semifinals because of it. I think B, just basically having that second pick, just a very good pick in the draft. He'll draft one thing that he can just build a team around, and he has a near wheel pick. So I think because of that and how the way he finished last season, I think B is in for a good one. Chris. So the draft is me, Chris. It's me, B, Noah, then Chris. So Chris has a good pick, not the greatest, but still not bad. Chris, also semifinalist, lost to me in the semifinals. I think now that he's in a division he's divisioning with Wu again, which gives him some familiarity. You give him opponent that is still learning in Nick, and you give him someone that is just as good as him in B. This is gonna be a good division for Chris. Because again, did with Wu last season. He no longer has me in his division, which he beat me once. To be fair, he beat me once, so he didn't struggle by any means. But I think when you have like a top player like myself in your division, can't really get the division winner as easily. I think anyone but Nick in this division can honestly come out and get the div leader. But Chris, he won 11-3 last season. Should have went 12-2 to be honest, but Croc kind of hacks him out a little bit. But Chris 11-3, 12-2, however you want to look at it. Very, very second team in the league. I don't mean this in any disrespectful way to Chris, but the general question around the league is how does Chris do without Palathin? Because, season 1, first season, we can overlook that. Season 2, really, really struggled. He kind of just popped off the last, 2 or 3 weeks, which allowed him to make it into that playoff tournament and then into playoffs. And then, unfortunately, had to play MNAS and lost. But season 2 was still not a good season for Chris. Really just had that end season pop off. And then season 3, he had a just fantastic team. Had the Palathin, had the Hisui and Gudra, which he said he was franchising, but it doesn't look like it, so he might not have that. He can't have Palathin because he got banned. And then he had things like the Mega Banette, which was crazy. Hans Crow carried the early season. Meowscrata carried the late. So, Chris, in my opinion, had top 2, top 3 team last season. And a lot of people kind of accredited that to the Palathin. So for Chris, this is the kind of defeating the critics in a way, Can he do well without Palathin? And that's a genuine question that a lot of people are most likely asking and thinking. So, hard to get my 2 cents. I think Chris will still do very well. I think this is a division that he can very easily overtake. Again, I think it's going to be a top 3. Like last season when it was me, Wu, Chris, and New. New kind of just didn't do all that great. So I think Chris is kind of in a similar situation where it's a 3-man division plus a bottom-end team. This is very winnable for him. This is a very winnable division. Whether he wins it, I don't know. We'll kind of get into that towards the later end of the video, but for right now, I kind of want to say 9-5 like B. I really, really do. Yeah, we'll do it. 9-5. I think B and Chris will have very similar seasons. I think they'll both be within the same skill level as each other. I think that's very good. Nick, 2-12, ended the season on a very good note against Preston. I mean, technically, I was his final game, but you know, scheduling wise, ended on a good. I mean, yeah, ended on a good win against Preston. You know, keeps saying he wants to franchise low kicks, then he doesn't. So we'll see by the deadline, which is this upcoming weekend, but not, you know, today's Sunday, but next Saturday is the deadline. So we'll see over the course of this week. But Nick, he did show progress. It's very minimal, but he did show progress, which that's all we can ask, is that you make progress. And you know, I don't think he's gonna have a good season. You know, I think he's very much still in the learning process. I think the 15 coaches in the league are very competitive and very good. Yeah, I think Nick is gonna be, again, he's kind of a weaker link in higher end competition. The one to even, like, you know, the top ends from the bottom, like the mid range coaches, still like a big thing there. So, you know, you gotta be careful. And like, again, 1 to 2% differences in players are very exposable in like high end competition. But when there's an even greater percentage difference, it's gonna be hard. So for Nick, I think he'll have a better season. I don't think it'll be a good one. I think he'll go 4-10. I think 4 wins is very reasonable for Nick. You know, double your wins from last season. That's still great, you know? Again, progress. Even if he only gets 1 more win this season in 3, that's still progress from last season. So I think doubling the wins will be good. He's in a very tough division, so we'll have to see. Woo? Woo's a weird one. Because I think Woo is actually like a sleeper in the league. I think he's very good. He definitely, you know, we always say that Woo, like, he doesn't take it seriously, and he, you know, he obviously cares to win, but he's not like the rest of us where you take a loss and it's like, oh my god, that sucks. Like, Woo, he's very nonchalant about it, but it's to his benefit, I would say. He likes to bring some funky stuff, you know? I mean, against Tanner, he brought Confused Ray Crobat and it worked, so I think Woo, you know, he usually ends off in like the mid-range. Like, he usually end even. Like last season, he was 7-7. I could see another 7-7 season out of Woo. So I think that's what we'll give him. I think Woo's just very consistent, and I would say he goes 7-7 or 8-5. I don't think he'll go. No, this isn't saying I think Woo's worse than being Chris, because I can very realistically see Woo winning out this division if he just has a good team, a good strategy. But I just think for basing it off of last season, but you know, to be fair, kind of have to. I think B and Chris are pretty clear as the top 2 teams in this division, so we'll see, but it's kind of what I'm expecting out of these guys. Josh, he was like the number 2, number 3 team all season, and then right before the regular season ended, he dropped to number 4. Tanner kind of beat him in the differential game. Where's my mouse? Yeah, Tanner kind of beat him in the differential game, but you know, still had a pretty great season. Went 10-4, plus 15. But again, the thing about Josh is the thing about Tavs, but that's, he will just have some stinker games, and there's just no explaining it. Josh will just come in some weeks, and he'll just lose. And there's just, you know, it's like he comes in, hands over an L, and then he just moves on. Josh, I think Biff is going to have a good season. You know, I think Biff definitely not, you know, he's been hyping himself up a lot, and, you know, you kind of have to do that, especially when you have a not so good season. So I think Biff will definitely not go, 5-9 again. So I think Biff, being in the same division as him, they're best friends. I think that'll be interesting. Adding Tanner into the mix. you know, considered the top three with me and JC for the longest time. Um, so yeah, there's that. And then Croc made it to playoffs first season, went 8-6, had a pretty good season. We have a lot, I said me and Noah's division, or me and JC, Noah, and Preston's division is probably the hardest, but I think you could consider this like this is like in my opinion, mine is the hardest, but I think you can make a good argument that this is like number two. I mean, if you're going based off last season, you'd say being Chris's division just because they made semifinals, but if you're going based off like history and like expected peaks of a coaches, I would say Ruby division is probably the second hardest. So Josh, 10-4. I would say I'll give Josh an 8-6 season. I think he franchised at Tusk, which is comfortability. Does he go for the Lele that he's been hyping up for a while? We don't know. But I think just having Tusk will be good. I think, especially with some of the coaches expecting to do better, I think not struggle, but I think again Josh just has some of them stinkers, man, and I think putting him in a slightly harder division, because last season JC just didn't have a season, Preston didn't have a good second half, and Biff just did not have a good season. I think with being in an expectedly more competitive division, I think Josh will definitely pick up a few more losses. We got him at 8-6. Biff, I'm expecting good things out of Biff. 5-9. His team was very wonky. I think there's a lot of Pokemon on his team he just didn't utilize like much at all. Like really, realistically, it was like Iron Bundle, Glacio, and then like Sableye as like the third. Other than that, like the Biff, I'm expecting a better season. How much better? I don't know. He franchised Mega Glade, so again, just one of the two mons that he was very comfortable with last season. We already know he has, so I think Biff is in for some good things, but how good? I don't know. So yeah, Biff, God, he's a tough one for me, because I do believe him. I think Biff has shown to be a good player, but it's a tough division. Just going off last I'm trying to go off last season, but some of these coaches that didn't perform as well, I'm trying not to. Biff 5-9. Realistically, I could see Biff going, I would say 8-6, 7-7. I'll say 8-6. I'll give Biff the benefit of the doubt. I think Biff will go positive on the season. I think he'll go 8-6. I think Biff, he just drafts what he's comfortable with and just builds a better team. Mons that he knows he'll bring and Mons that he knows can get value out of. Last season really held on to this Titan for a while. Dropping it, of course. I think Biff, he's in for a better season for sure. I'm expecting big things out of him. I know I'm saying that about a lot of the coaches, but it's just reality. I'm expecting every coach to do good, as usual. Obviously, I'm giving a lot of coaches high-end records, which means I'm going to be very wrong on a lot of them because, just nature of the league. There's going to have to be some bottom-end teams. But I think Biff is definitely the coach that I can see having a good season. I almost want to put him back down to 7-7, but I already said 8-6, so I'll leave him at 8-6. Tanner, very weird season for him as well. First end of the season, not the strongest. But ironically enough, once he dropped Roaring Moon, he started doing very well. How do you do bad with Roaring Moon? I could not tell you. But once he made a couple trades. He made Slitherwing his Terror Captain, which instantly made his team do better. Dropped the Roaring Moon for Hisuian Arcanine, which kind of just had dead weight on his team in Saraledge, which, in my opinion, is just insane. I think Saraledge was very good on his team, but, you know, stats prove otherwise. I think the Hisuian Arcanine is a really big pickup for him, and he got Vikavolt, which, in my opinion, I think he overbrought Webs. You know, especially going into that game against Curse in the semifinals. I don't really know why he would bring it against such a slow team. I know he was very worried about the Palafin, Scarf Palafin, but Curse's team just had too much priority, so I didn't really understand that. But in general, Tanner, considered one of the top 3 coaches for the first 3 seasons of Big Juice, you know. Me, JC, and Tanner, Barrett, for a while, considered the top 3 coaches. My opinion, not so much anymore. Maybe I'll talk about it this video, who knows. But Tanner, still an incredible coach. Always makes it to playoffs. So I'm expecting Tanner to have a good season. He ended 10-4, I think in a slightly harder division. It's hard to say a harder division because Chase is like Tanner's kryptonite. You know, Chase lost him both times last season, but, you know, the first game they played, Chase should have had it won, in my opinion. Second time they played, Tanner just stiffed him. But Tanner, putting him in a harder division, I think will rain him down a bit, but I don't think too much. I'm expecting like a 9-5 season out of Tanner. You know, I think that's very reasonable. He should have beat Josh, lost to him. You know, if I just like spitball, I think Tanner will kind of go 1-1 against most of his division. I could see him beating Biff twice or Croc twice, but I think against Josh, he'll go 1-1 with. So Tanner, I'm expecting him to kind of be like slightly above the pack in this division, but not by much. Again, Tanner, just one of the best coaches in the league for a reason. Yeah, just kind of expecting normal Tanner things. Croc, how he went 8-6 last season with no hazard removal, I couldn't tell you. Again, a lot of it was predicated on that Shed Tail Gyarados, so we'll see. But again, his team was just objectively not. Offensively, his team was great. Utility defensively, it was all around the Arcanine, it felt like. And, you know, he kind of had to bring boots on it every week just because he had no hazard. So, I think, realistically, give Croc a better team. You know, the division is a little bit harder. The league is just naturally going to be more competitive because everyone has an extra season under their belt. A lot of the new guys that came in, like the Brits, they're very traditionally best of 1 players. Best of 3, it's a little bit different. Croc, I would say I expect him to have I would expect Croc to have a very similar season than he did last season. I think if you give him a better team, he will have better results, obviously, but I think just naturally due to the competition in the league, you know, a lot of these teams I'm giving slightly more losses than usual. I think naturally I would expect a 7-7 season out of Croc. When 8-6, 7-7, just I think he'll pick up like 1 or 2 extra losses a season just because the league is more competitive, obviously. But Croc, like Woo and Croc are kind of in the same spot for me. Like they can very easily make it playoffs or playoff caliber coaches. It's just like they're always on that brink. And again, funny enough, Woo and Croc were in competition with each other for playoffs. Croc got the better of him last time, but you know, just Croc and Woo, just very like consistent players. Just it's that question of will they make playoffs? Because again, they're always in that conversation. So Croc, I'm expecting to have a very similar season. Just, you know, maybe pick up an extra loss or 2 just because the league is harder. So yeah, MNES. God, I hate this. Is interesting because regular season MNES is such a middle of the pack team. He is such a middle of the pack player in regular season. But the second playoffs are coming around and the second playoff start, just top 2 team in Big Juice history. I mean, I would put myself at number 1 just because I have always consistently been like a top 1 or 2 team in the regular season, and I've always made it far. in the playoffs. Season 1, semifinals, lost to JC. Season 2 made it to finals, lost to MNAS, and the last season finally won it. So in my opinion, I think I'm probably the best coach in the league. But number 2, you got to give to MNAS. Only player alongside me to go back-to-back in finals, or even make it to 2 finals. So MNAS historically just sucks it up in the regular season. Just absolute stinker. Will we see him break away from that stigma of just regular season MNAS? It's like the I know not a lot of people watch Smite in here, but for the few of us that do, it's like the Zapman effect. Just stinks it up in the regular season, then just pops off in the postseason. I think the Zap analogy is pretty good with MNAS. And I can't. I'm going 7-7. I think MNAS is just that player in the regular season. Just he just. I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, but he just can't compete. Like, it's weird because he always makes it to finals. He always does. He just finds the way to do it, but he just stinks it up in the regular season, man. Holy shit. Like, if we're talking about regular season top end players, MNAS is like, he's not even in the discussion for one of the best. He's just such a stinker compared to his playoff performance, obviously. But I think MNAS, until he proves us wrong, I think it's very fair to put him here because, again, just stinks it up in the regular season. So MNAS, I hope you can change my mind, but God, is it hard to give you such a good... It's very hard to give you a better record when you just historically just struggle in the regular season. So, MNAS, prove me wrong, please. You're my boy, my finals partner. But God, I need to see you have a good season, bro. I need to see it. I think you're in the division to do it too. I'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah, Chase. I always hype Chase up every season. I always hype him up, and then he always just under-delivers. Last season, he was 5-9 with Biff, I believe. He was, but okay. So let me just explain this for people. We had 3 coaches that ended 5-9. Biff, but he had -36 differential. Preston, but he had -18. So you can see that Preston had a very strong early, just a lackluster late. But Chase was 5-9 at -5. And I think that really proves my point that Chase is a very good player. When you go 5-9, you're expected to have like a Biff differential maybe between Preston and Biff, like a -20 to 30. But Chase was -5. He makes all of his games close. Like, you are not 2-0ing Chase. Like, obviously you can, but Chase he likes to like mud wrestle you. You know what I mean? Like, he's getting down and dirty with you. So like, Chase, I always hype up, but he just like, it's like, again, his record shows it. 5-9 at -5. Like, he always does good, but just slips just ever so slightly, and it holds him down. So Chase always says, when I do him dirty, he does better, So Chase, I'm expecting you to have a good season for once, but just because you do better when I doubt you, I'm going to say you're going to have another lackluster season. But I will give you the slight benefit even here. I'll say 6-8. I think Chase is, because again, like, if we go, like, I've done it individually with people before, like going over Chase's season. But if we just go over the 2 big ones, he should have beat me. There's no question about it, and he should have beat Tanner. So instantly, he's 7-7. He's no longer 5-9. He's 7-7. His game against Croc is kind of a toss-up, but I would never take that away from Croc, so we'll leave that. But I think there's a couple other games where if just 1 or 2 turns go differently, Chase can like, Chase, if he beat Croc in that game of the season well, not caliber, literally the game of the season game, we probably see Chase in playoffs over Croc. So, Chase just, again, went 5-9, but turn around the 2 games he kind of got cheated out of, and again, 2 of the top teams in the league, me and Tanner, he's 7-7. So, again, I don't want to overhype Chase again for the 4th season in a row, but I'll put him at 6-8 just because, again, he has the potential to be so good, just such a good coach, but he just finds whether the game fucks him over or missing high jump kicks or just unlucky damage rolls or just, again, just doesn't show up the game sometimes. I mean, because again, he lost to Nick. Like, how do you go from essentially beating me and Tanner to losing to Nick? I couldn't tell you. Like, Chase is the most inconsistent player in the league, bar none. His lows are very, very low. Again, we saw it last season. He lost to Nick. But his highs, he can beat the top end. He beat me, essentially, and he should have beat Tanner. So, again, that doesn't show you Chase's thing. Like, the dog in him. I don't know what does. It's kind of a coin flip what you get from him every week. And, last season was kind of like the amalgamation of his first 3 seasons. He had a lot of his season 1 guys in there, like the Raladon. He had a lot of his season 2 guys in there, like the Nido King, Whimsicott, and Prim. And he made some new friends. The first half of the season wasn't a big Johnny Adams guy, but towards the end, Johnny Adams became like a very crucial member of the team. And Regieleki and Cinderace, again, he usually finds just 1 or 2 mons that he likes every season. So I definitely think Chase should definitely just clean slate it. Find some new friends, maybe get like 1 or 2 Pokemon that he's had before. But I think in general, if Chase just has a clean slate and just work in the early season, just works a little bit harder than usual just to get accustomed to them, I think we can see an 8-6, 9-5 Chase. 9-5 maybe a stretch, but very realistically, we could see an 8-6 season Chase. It's just what Chase are we getting every week? And I think it's fair to say 6-8. So Chase, please prove me wrong, but again, kind of have to prey on your downfall here. The Taboon. How he didn't make playoffs with Megalopunny Flutter Mane. His team was insane. His team was crazy. The Rillaboom, I kind of always overlook that, but Rillaboom was a massive part of his team. Like that was his guy. So Tabs is like Woo and Croc to me. He's always on the cusp of playoffs. Season 2, he made playoffs. Last season, unfortunately, kind of got booted out by B last second, but Tabs is kind of in the same boat for me as like Mnez, I think they're like about equal. Regular season wise, they're like about equal. Postseason, Mnez obviously diffs mostly anyone in postseason, but for regular season, I think they're about equal. So I'll say 7-7. I think Tabs, I don't think he'll be div leader, but I think it's very realistic that we see him in playoffs this time. Again, he's always in the conversation for playoffs. The Taboon passive, just losing games that he shouldn't. Most notably, his game against JC. He was up 6-3 and somehow lost it. Tabs, I think if he just drafts, Tabs usually likes to draft his little funky stuff. He likes his webs, so I would expect a Sticky Webber. And last season, he was really big on hazard stacking, and it proved to be very successful for him. So I think if he just sticks around the identity of one bulk, because I think he plays better around the bulk. He likes his press funny button, like Rillaboom with Grassy Glide. So I think, Tabs you can kind of expect it just the one-hit wonder and then hazards. So Tabs, I think if he sticks around the identity, but just slightly different strategy, obviously, than before, I think we can see a good season from Tabs, but 8-6 is kind of where I'd like peak for Tabs. I wouldn't expect him to go like 9-5 or above, but I would say like the 6 to 8 to 8 and 6 range is kind of where I expected Tabs. So I'll cut it down the middle at 7 and 7, expecting good things from Tabs. Now I saved the spicy one for last. Astador Sal. He likes to be called Sal, so I'll call him Sal. Sal is an absolute demon. You know, maybe I'm overhyping him. Maybe. But I think Sal is going to catch a lot of people off guard. Maybe he won't because I'm overhyping him so much, but Sal is going to be it. We already know that he's franchised in Melmetal, which has been a pick that has never been drafted in Big Juice. So we already see what he's cooking with, a lot of bulk, a lot of strength. But Sal, you know, I can't leak too much because I've scrimmed him a couple times, and I know he's scrimmed a couple of you guys as well. So, we all kind of know that Sal, he has the potential. He has the potential. You know, he's in a very tough division, I would say. You know, just on paper, probably the weakest of the four, but I mean, that's just because Mnez has such a stinker regular season. But within these players, like regular season standings, this is a very competitive division. And I think Sal, he's in for it. You know, definitely not, you know, he doesn't have like a new, I don't mean to bring up new, he's not even in the league anymore, but, you know, Season 3 just ended, so I'll cut myself some slack. You know, he's not in a division with like a giveaway game like Nick, for example. So, you know, I think Estador, or Sal, my bad, Sal. I think Sal will. I have two ways of looking at Sal. I think he'll either have a really strong beginning of the season just because people aren't expecting him to do good, and then as people kind of catch on to him, he'll start to slow down a bit. Or I think he'll struggle a little bit in the beginning just because he won't understand like how to prep the most effectively, and then have like a really strong mid to end season. God, I think Sal. I don't want to put 9 and 5 because again, I think 9 and 5 may be overshooting it a bit. But I think 8 and 6. You know, I don't think he'll go 7 and 7. I think he's doing 8 and 6 or better. I don't know why, but I see Sal going 8 and 6. It's feel in my gut. So Sal, I'm expecting big things from him, but I don't want to overshoot my confidence in him. You know what I mean? So realistically, I can expect something like this. I really can. You know, obviously a lot of people have very high records, which maybe mathematically doesn't work out here, but you know, I think this is very reasonable. I think this is very reasonable. So yeah. I want to talk about anything else. It's already 2:30 in the morning and I've worked in 4 hours. Let me do this. I already fucked up this bracket, so I guess this is something we can do. Again, season hasn't even started, so kind of crazy to start talking about playoffs. But if I were to give like just a raw dog explanation of playoffs, you know, obviously different coaches here, but division leaders obviously get the top 4, so I'll say myself, you know, it could be JC or Noah, but I'm not expecting Preston, but I'll say myself. They'll do me, and it's B, Chris, Wu, and Nick. I'll give it to B. So we'll do me, B. I'll say Tanner. And I'll say Sal, bro. I think Sal will be div leader. And that is just, if he doesn't have that good regular season that we hope for him, I think Sal can really take it away and win that division. So I think the division leaders, I guess I'll come back here and do it. I want to highlight it. I'll do light green, bro. I think we can realistically see these 4 being the div leaders coming out of the regular season. I really think we can. Again, putting Estador over a coach like Emnes, that's probably the second best coach we've seen in Big Juice. Kind of crazy, but just based on his regular season performance, I think Sal can take it. So in my opinion, this is kind of what I'm predicting for the 4 division leaders. Obviously in my division, I think Noah or JC could very easily overtake that spot. I could see Wu overtake it, but I think Chris is slightly more likely just based off last season. But again, like I mentioned earlier, it's the question of, can he perform without Palafin? I think he can, but that is a genuine question people have to ask. Tanner, I don't really think there's anything too crazy here. Just kind of expecting normal Tanner things, but I do think Josh will give him some good competition. With Biff and Croc lurking in the back, maybe we see an upset, but I think it's most realistic to see Tanner taking this division. And this is probably the hottest take of them all, but I really do think Sal can take this division. Emnes, we got to see that good regular season, bro. We got to see it. But right now, it's looking, in my mind, I think Sal will just perform slightly above the rest in this division. Obviously, I could get into the other 4 coaches for playoffs, but, I think any coach but Nick, unfortunately. I think all other 15 coaches have the potential for playoffs, so I'm not really going to go down that road, but yeah. Kind of just want to talk about everyone and my expectations, I guess, for them going into the season. I kind of rated everyone very highly, but, I don't think myself or any other coach will have kind of like the perfect season. I lost one game, but a game that I very much was using more for scouting purposes more than anything. So I don't think any coach will go 13-1. I think the season I had last season was just very strong, but I don't think we'll ever see. I'm saying that about myself as well. I don't think we'll ever see a repeat performance of my season 3 season. I just don't think it's reasonable anymore. I think the league has really stepped up the competition, and with everyone getting better, getting to know each other better as players and as friends, I just don't see that happening again. So we'll see. But yeah, I think these are very realistic records for people. I think me and JC, JC, not the season we were expecting out of him for sure, but I think if we're being honest with ourselves, the second half of that season 3 for JC, kind of what we all expected, and even then he finished the 9-5, which is still really good. So if he just cleans up a couple games, which is very reasonable to expect from JC, I think 11-3 is very much in his grasp. So yeah, I feel good about this list. I feel like this is very reasonable for every coach. Maybe I did some coaches dirty. Like maybe I did Wu a little dirty. Maybe I did Chase. I would say the 3 coaches I've probably done the dirtiest. He's probably Preston, Chase, and Emnes. I think I did them a little dirty. I'd say Wu maybe a little bit, but he's always in that 7-7 range, middle of the pack. Preston and Chase, I think they very much have the potential to pop off, but it's always a question of will they. And Preston took off that pop-off potential from himself by all the mind-blowing trades he made. And Chase he's always on that cusp, that inconsistency, it's just, can he shrug off that inconsistency? I don't know, but yeah. Again, this is kind of what I'm expecting for next season, just players and division leader wise. If I think Emnes is more realistic to win this division, just because while he did struggle a lot last season, he performed the best in division because division games are obviously the most important, and he knew that and he focused in on them. And I think that was one of his strong suits, was that he proved to be a very hard opponent in his division. So I could see Sal Honestly, I can see any 4 of these coaches taking div leader here, but I think Sal is probably most likely for me. Tanner is very clear cut above the rest of these guys. Not by much, but I think it's, we can reasonably say that Tanner is most likely to take this division, but if I were to give it to a number 2, probably be Josh. Then I think Biff and Croc are pretty equal, so that's kind of a toss-up for who I'd expect next, but I think Tanner, pretty safe in my mind to take this division. Nick, there's no way he takes this division. It's too hard for him. Again, I say Chris is most likely up next, but Wu can kind of give him a run for his money, so we'll see. And if I don't take the Pro division, I think JC does. But again, Noah is like right behind me and JC, I would say, but not by much. I think Noah proved to be a very strong coach. And, his record and differential show it. He was 6-8, but he had a +2 differential, so his beginning of the season was very strong, just had to move, a lot of IRL stuff, so I think if we see a slightly better Noah, which is very reasonable, I think we can see him have a very pop-off season. Whether he wins division or not, gonna be a little bit harder, but I think it's reasonable. And then Preston, of course. If you just draft a good team and don't trade it away, you'll do good. So just have a good draft like you did last season. So that's kind of it for me. Yeah. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Let me pull up the tier list that Josh posted the other day, because I guess they haven't posted their video yet. So I guess I'll just kind of run over that a little bit. See what happens, but right here, okay. Really nothing super stands out to me. I think Rotom Wash being in maybe is kind of crazy. I think Rotom Wash and Mega Absol and maybe is like kind of crazy to me. I think those two are likely to go / will be drafted. I think Kyurem is probably an for me, just because Kyurem Black got him banned and they're both in tier 1. Like, why would you ever get Kyurem over Kyurem Black? I don't think Kyurem will ever get drafted. Deoxys Speed, without Nasty Plot, I'm kind of a hater. So I'll put it in likely to go, but I think it's like top of likely to go if you have to drop it there. Everything else I think is pretty fair to say. Inteleon a little high up there, but again, I think just as a low tier water, it's very good. But yeah, everything else, I know they changed a couple things that we had, but I think everything else is pretty solid. Like I guess maybe Bulu and is a little crazy to me, but again, Bulu's he's of the top boosts, he's such a weird one to me. He's just like, he does like the most damage of them all, but like it's just weird. It's weird, but yeah, in general, I kind of agree with this list, minus a few that I kind of highlighted. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I kind of wanted to talk about. Wo Chen being and will be drafted. You gotta put him next to King Gambit, bro. I will draft Wo Chen if no one wants him. But yeah, kind of just like coach expectations is kind of the video I wanted to make. Don't really have enough time to make anything else at the moment. Kind of have to wake up in like 3 hours, but yeah. If there's any other videos you guys would like me to make, I know back in season 2, I made a lot of the waiver wires just talking about undrafted free agents. So if you guys want to see some more like free agent videos, mons that I think should go drafted, and just talk about how to use them, I'll make those videos again. But so close to the draft, I don't think anyone wants that, so I probably won't. But yeah, if you guys have any video ideas, just let me know. But yeah, coach expectations is kind of what I'm expecting. Coaches in green, div leaders. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, and I'll see y'all maybe next time, but next time might be the draft, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of here.